My name is Alexandra. I am meeting with my child portfolio's mother tonight to talk about the portfolio and the findings of the assessments and work that we've been doing this semester. So, to provide a little background and context for the conference, I am in an EDU-145, so Child Development 2 course, and a major portion of this course grade is based around a portfolio conducted on a child between the ages of 3 and 8. So my portfolio child is age 7 and is in the first grade. And the nature of this conference is going to talk about the assessments that were performed and some steps that can be implemented at home to kind of address the findings of the portfolio. So, Samantha, why don't you tell me, even though I already know, your relationship with the portfolio child?
Rylan is my son. He's 7 and he is a first grader.
Okay, so what we're going to do first is we're going to talk a little bit about the portfolio in general and what that entailed. So, as you know, that's been ongoing for the semester, and that has included some observation records, so running records, anecdotal records. There have been developmental checklists as it relates to each domain of his development. I've been able to assess some of his work done at school. And also, Samantha, I'm not going to say his name, so I'm going to keep referring to him as him or his throughout the duration of the call, just so you know. Yes, I was able to assess some of his work, and thus far the findings have been primarily centered around strengths. So from what I've seen, of course, throughout the course of the semester and throughout the course of the portfolio child's life, in relation to strengths, I think that each domain I think has respective strengths, but the one that has always stood out to me the most have been as they relate to his emotional and social development and his capacity to extend empathy and understanding and really being able to put himself in other children's shoes and to be able to comprehend other people's experiences and the things that other people are feeling. And I think he's very socially inclined and has a very strong desire to not only be included but to help others feel included and to be overall a friend, and is very protective in nature and defensive of those that he cares about, and is really an advocate for goodness all around, I would say, for people, his peers, his siblings, his family. So what I want to talk about is what you, Samantha, feel like. Let's start with him individually first. What do you feel like his strengths are in general? And they could be relating to anything, like physical, emotional, cognitively. What do you feel like his general strengths are?
His willingness to try. He doesn't get discouraged super easily, so he's willing to try to make the best of the situation or to learn something new or to push himself physically or to grasp a new concept. He's definitely willing to put forth effort, and so that's a really big strength for both school and home life.
Yeah.
With him. I also agree that he has a really good capacity for emotional understanding and being able to see when someone doesn't feel the way they should feel and to come up with a way to correct that behavior or to alter the way that that person feels so that they do feel better or feel included or feel welcome, whatever the case may be. He can recognize those emotions first and then come up with a way to kind of change that pattern. So I definitely agree with you on that.
And what do you feel like are your strengths as a family? So to include you, your daughter, and the portfolio child as well.
Family, really. clumped together, so we don't have certain tasks per person. You know,
Right.
it's kind of like a everyone puts in type thing, and Rylan definitely feels that he has a spot in our family, and he feels like he has to fulfill like a bunch of different roles in that spot in our family, and he does that really well. And I would say that Kinley and I both do too. We alternate our roles and kind of be inclusive really well.
Okay. So I emailed you the brochure for the learning center that we explored together a little bit. So I think overall, just to touch on anything that I noticed, and obviously we've had chances to talk about this outside of some of these assignments, but I don't have any, from what I've observed, I don't have any concerns about his cognitive development or his physical development. He doesn't seem to be struggling in any areas of cognitive intelligence or anything like that. I do think that with respect to the teacher changing a lot, that's probably been very hard. And just to bring note to that, I discussed this with my instructor, but we aren't able to meet with Rylan's teacher because his teacher has changed, and then he's been having substitutes. So we don't really have a good indicator of a teacher that's really been able to spend a significant amount of time with him and really be able to assess. So really the main things that I highlighted were things that could influence the projection of his development. So that being one could potentially impact some level of development just in respect to this grade, or approaching the next, as it will for a lot of children with respect to the pandemic and changes happening with teachers and environments and everything. And the highlight that we talked about was emotional regulation, because it seems like that has been really the area that he's kind of struggled in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to find ways to respond to highly emotionally engaged situations and do so in an appropriate way that feels like he's still honoring himself and the things that he believes in and that he wants to defend. So that was mainly the things that I highlighted throughout, were just kind of environmental influences, because he really doesn't have very many biological things going on in terms of learning disabilities or developmental delays or anything like that. So if we look at the brochure, some of these tools are listed under things to do at home and resources. And some of these I think could probably be implemented at school too, but yeah, that I think the teacher changing and stuff is kind of a separate thing, but yeah. So what we have on the brochure, and something that he's the portfolio child, I'm sorry, it's so weird to speak about him and not say his name. One of the things that we were able to talk about were just little tools that can be implemented, physical tools that can be implemented to kind of help you regulate in the moment. So developing a kit like that we explored, because it seemed like he responded very well to that, and then
Very well.
he used it at school and was able to really stop and process, which is the whole goal of that. And the resources that are listed here are really great. The whole learning center was based off that zones of regulation curriculum, and there's a really great webinar on here to be used at home. And I think that could really help him build off of those skills that he's starting to develop. But overall, I think that everything looks great. I think he's happy and healthy, and there are no major concerns from what I've observed or from what I've gathered from the people that are close to him that spend a significant amount of time with him. So let me just glance over this portfolio one more time to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. Okay, I think that is everything. The last thing we need to do, though, is just check in with you and see if you have any questions or concerns about anything that's happened this semester or anything that we talked about tonight or just in general.
So I don't think I have any questions. No, you've done a pretty good job of covering the things that would have an impact. I do feel like starting school on a COVID year for kindergarten and going half the year seated and half the year virtual, and then going into a classroom that had a teacher with FMLA for half the year and then a different sub every other week has definitely skewed his view of what school is supposed to look like and what school is supposed to be.
Right.
And so the ability to regulate his behavior to a classroom setting has not been standard
Right.
in any like long period of time. There hasn't been a standard set of classroom rules and a standard regulation. And so going into second grade, I think that that's going to be a major challenge for him because the teachers still expect that he already obtained the ability to have proper classroom behavior without understanding the environmental factors, as you said, prior to that. And so maybe just as we continue to talk about him, that could be something that we like actually do.
Right.
Try to figure out ways that we can help him implement strategies on how to pay attention, how to use your time wisely, how not to goof off, and how to like take it seriously, and it not just be a play setting in the change of structure that he's used to.
Right. I think you're totally right. I think that lack of consistency and really lack of support that he should be getting from school, it's a big deal, and it's important that we're talking about it and that you're aware more than anything, and that you do find some comfort in being able to kind of get ahead of it, so to speak, and trying to maybe utilize some of those tools to kind of mitigate his experience. There's a lot of that, that situation in its entirety has nothing to do with him.
Yeah,
and
they just expect it still.
Right. And, because when do EOG starts at third grade?
Third grade.
Third grade, right. So a lot of second grade is preparing for
EOG.
Learning to take the test.
But he isn't even prepared for proper classroom behavior.
Right,
and none of his classmates are either.
And it would have been really useful, I think, to be able to talk to, I don't know. I mean, you said the substitute changes like basically every other week, right?
Yeah, they only have one substitute a week, and sometimes it's not for a full week. Sometimes it's like 3 days, then 2 days. They rotate about 5 substitutes.
Right.
As to who's available at what time length. But the teacher is not coming back. She has FMLA for the school year, and then she retired. So it was kind of a happenstance there.
Right. Okay, well, I think that's all I have for you tonight. If you don't have any other questions, thank you for taking time out of your vacation to talk to me and help me with my assignment and help me with my learning experience and working toward the end goals.